सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः। देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। Salutations to everyone present here. We saw yesterday that in the 16th chapter at the end, Shri Krishna describes that why it is so important to follow the instructions of the Shastra. It is a time-tested wisdom. And he spoke about three types of people. Two types of people actually. First type of person, he said, are the people who have studied the Shastra, who have understood the scriptures, and they are living life according to that. They live a harmonious life, they achieve success, they achieve peace of mind and the ultimate liberation also. Second type are the people who have not studied the Shastra, or if they have studied the Shastra, still they completely ignore it and live according to their whims and fancies. Whatever they feel like, they just do. Bhagavan said such people, their minds are disturbed. They don't attain happiness here, nor they attain fulfillment, nor anything great hereafter. So Arjun had that question that what about the third category of people? They may know the Shastra or they may not know the Shastra, but they are not following it. Yet they are good, they have faith, and whatever they do, they are doing it with that sincerity and that faith. In the first shloka, he uses the word yajante. So in the specific context, he says they are doing their spiritual practices. So they don't know the injunctions, or they know but they are not following it, and they are just doing out of their goodness, their faith. How do we understand such people? What would such people attain? What is their nishtha? Sattvic, Rajasic or Tamasic? So we will read this first verse again and then go into the answer that Bhagavan gives.
अर्जुन उवाच ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य
ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य
यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः
यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः
तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण
तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण
सत्त्वमाहो रजस्तमः
सत्त्वमाहो रजस्तमः
ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण सत्त्वमाहो रजस्तमः.
So having said this, the question that he has asked is what many people have, that I don't know the scriptural procedures, but I am a good natured person, I am doing something out of my faith. Is that fine? Now this question, when it is asked, do we ask this question in other aspects of life? Suppose a person wants to go abroad, wants to study abroad. Now how many universities are there, so many procedures are there, one has to find out, one has to apply, then one has to write a one-page write-up, and so many things that one has to do. Will a person say at that point in time that, I am a good-natured person? Is it okay if I don't follow the instructions and the procedures? There we will not say that. Why? Because that is so imperative. I have to follow those. Same way, if somebody wants to get a certification for IB, how much documentation is required for it? If you want a passport to go abroad, visa to go abroad, so much of form filling, this, that, all procedures are there. For everything there are those procedures which are there. But when it comes to the spiritual path, suddenly we ask this question, that is it okay if I don't know the scripture, I am just following it? It is a proper science. See, the most subtle equipment, the more subtler the equipment is, much more care one has to take to handle that. One can't find by trial and error, plug a particular equipment and start pressing any button anyhow and let us see what works. However good-natured a person may be, one has to follow. Even simple things, electricity, one has to follow the rules of electricity. If one doesn't know those, there will be short circuit. So what has to be done is very important, that according to the subtlety of the equipment. Mind is the most subtle equipment that we have. All the other equipments are created by the human mind. If there are instructions, procedures to be followed for those equipments, will there not be certain procedures to follow for the mind and disciplining the mind? And this mind is such that it is not even visible. It is intangible. The thoughts, we can only experience them. We don't see, hear, taste, smell, touch the thoughts. And lucky we don't do that. Just imagine if our thoughts were visible, tangible. People won't be able to relate to each other. Because what they are thinking about the opposite person will be visible. So outside is saying, hello, how are you, so nice to meet you, and inside is grudging. What a useless fellow. What a Mahapapi he is, and he is sitting here in the Gita Satsang. That is what the mind is thinking from inside. So a person, the mind is so subtle, the most subtlest equipment. We say nuclear power, thermal power, atomic power, solar power, all these powers are great. And if these powers are not in the hands of the right people, what happens? Now greater than all these powers is the mind, the thought power. And using that thought power, I have to achieve various things in life. How do I harness the thought power? And to achieve anything specific, there are specific procedures. which if they are followed in the world of cause and effect, we understand that. For every effect there has to be a cause, and there has to be a specific cause for it. There are certain specific ingredients that will go into it. There are certain specific procedures that have to be followed. Even to get external things. And what to talk about subtler things like punya? What to talk about subtler things like purity of mind? What to talk of subtler things like darshan of the Lord who is unmanifest? There, when we are following certain practices of a puja or japa or meditation, what is written in the scripture, we are not even looking into that many times. Some meditation theory is there, new age theory. One starts practicing. What is the objective? What are the steps? What is the way in which one will attain that? All those one has not known. And even though the nature may be good intention, one still will not get that specific result because one did not follow those specific instructions. Now Arjuna is trying to ask here that question, that what will happen to such a person? And he uses the three classifications, Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic. Can you call the nishtha of the person Sattvic, Rajasic or Tamasic? That is that person good, average or dull? Now Bhagavan does not answer that if that person is doing with sincerity, it is always good. Because generally that would be our answer. Even if he doesn't know or she doesn't know technicalities and procedures, if the intention is good, everything will be good. If intention alone mattered, all education is not required only. Why do we need education? There are necessary things I have to know, I have to follow. So Bhagavan doesn't answer that yes, this is good or this is bad. This is right or this is wrong. He makes Arjuna think for himself and he gives the classification. He expands on the classification of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Because Arjuna used the word Shraddha. He said this person has Shraddha. So now using that word Shraddha, Bhagavan gives the answer. Yesterday we saw that one of the important aspects of the scriptures is that scriptures make us think. They don't simply give us conclusion that this is good, this is bad. They make us think. And they present the entire data to us, using which we can come to our own conclusions. And hence the conclusion is not more important than the very process of thinking. And throughout the Gita you will find that. It is not like our school system, where there is a maths problem and there is a solution which is known. Now the moment you see that problem, this is the solution you have to arrive at. So beginning itself you write off that solution and hence proved. How you have come to that? Write long things thinking that examiner will get confused. But ultimately answer is there, hence proved. It is not that way. The conclusion is very, very important based on the process of thinking. So here Bhagavan gives the answer.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Trividha Bhavati Shraddha
Trividha Bhavati Shraddha
Dehinam Sa Swabhavaja
Dehinam Sa Swabhavaja
Satviki Rajasi Chaiva
Satviki Rajasi Chaiva
Tamasi Cheti Tam Shrunu
Tamasi Cheti Tam Shrunu
Trividha Bhavati Shraddha
Dehinam Sa Swabhavaja Satviki Rajasi Chaiva
तामसी चेति तां शृणु.
So Arjun had used the expression that the person does not know the Shastra but is endowed with faith. If that person is doing actions based on the faith, how will you classify? So Bhagavan uses that word faith and he elaborates. He answers, Trividha bhavati shraddha. O Arjun, there are three types of shraddha also. Dehinam sa svabhavaja. And that shraddha is born out of that person's svabhav or temperament or nature. What are the three types of shraddha? Satviki, Rajasi, Tamasi chaiva. Satvik shraddha, Rajasik shraddha, Tamasik shraddha. Cha iti tam shrunu. Now you will hear about it. Because the question is that he is doing with faith, then how do you classify this person? How do you understand this person? What will that person attain? So Bhagavan explains here that, okay, faith, what type of faith? When we hear the word faith, we generally think faith is only for the good things. If somebody has faith, it must be good. That person must be a devotee. And we limit the word faith only to religion, scripture, God. Bhagavan gives a deeper meaning here. He says Shraddha is also of three types. There is Satvik Shraddha, Rajasik Shraddha and Tamasik Shraddha. And so he says that Trividha bhavati Shraddha. There are three types of this Shraddha. And the Shraddha is born out of a person's nature. Now let us understand this.
Tattva.
Wait. I said let us understand this. So faith, generally the word faith is defined as Vedanta, Shastra, Guru Vakyadishu Vishwasaha. You have belief and a firm belief in Vedanta or the scripture and what the Guru has said. Here the definition of faith is very simple, but is very comprehensive. Faith is, as Gurudev would define, belief reinforced with conviction. My belief which is reinforced with conviction. That is called as a faith. And this faith is very important. It plays a very important role in my knowledge. What I have faith, according to that I have my knowledge. According to my knowledge I make the choices. And according to my choices, my temperament is formed. So, how do we understand this? If my faith is in communism, that is because I have a certain knowledge of communism. According to that is my belief. That belief I have reinforced by thinking more about communism, by understanding its importance, and I have strengthened that faith. According to that will be my actions, my choices. And as my choices will be, my whole nature will become like that. If my faith is in capitalism, that money, everything is that, maximum money, then according to that will be my actions, according to that will be my nature. If my faith is life is meant for enjoyment, khao, piyo aur mauj karo, just make merry. That is my belief. And I have strengthened that belief through my thinking, by looking at other people, how they are living, forming my own conclusions, experimenting it. Now that belief has become my faith. According to that faith will be my choices, my actions. So I will live like that. And life is meant for, it's just so temporary it is. Eat, drink and be merry. So as my faith is, so will be my actions, so will be my nature. And now the connection is very important here between faith and one's nature. Here it is said that faith is born out of one's nature. Sa svabhavaja. So every time when I am acting, at that point in time, when I have a belief, that belief also is because of my nature. So what gives rise to what we don't know? Whether faith gives rise to the nature or one's swabhav, or swabhav gives rise to faith. They don't have a cause-effect relationship. Here when we look at it, it said that the faith is born out of one's temperament or nature. So faith is the effect and temperament and the nature is the cause. But here it is not to be understood that way. Both lead to each other. Which came first, that one doesn't know. Both influence each other. But one can say that at a given moment, suppose I have a belief today that there is God. I have just a belief. That belief also is influenced a lot by my nature. What has been my samskar earlier. And that belief, when it is strengthened with knowledge, with examples, that slowly that belief will transform into faith. That faith will make me seek, okay, if there is God, let me find out who is that God, what is that God. And as per that, I may slowly transform to become a devotee. So now my nature has transformed. This you can apply in every aspect of life. That how the nature of a person influences the faith influences the choice, and the choice further influences the nature. So both go hand in hand. It can't be that faith comes first, then comes nature, or nature comes first, or then comes faith. Our Shraddha is based on our Swabhav. So many people have such Rajasic Swabhav, so their Shraddha will not be there in the Sattvic things. Very ambitious, very, very outgoing people. If you tell them, learn to be contented, it can't happen. They will say, in contentment will make me complacent. So the Rajasic Swabhav which is there will not allow that faith to grow. So faith is influenced by my Swabhav, and as per my choice, based on my faith. So if my faith is that ambition is very important, killer instinct very important, and I go out in the world, act, achieve, do anything, become successful. Now that, as I do that way, that becomes more and more my Swabhav. So faith is influenced by Swabhav, Swabhav further strengthens or weakens the faith. So they both go hand in hand. It is not like first what comes. Then this is very important to understand, one aspect, that our temperament has a lot to do with our faith. Further, Bhagavan will say, you may say that, Swamiji, I don't think I have any faith. Bhagavan will say that there is nobody who has no faith. Everybody has faith. We will see why he says that. So both go hand in hand, Swabhav and Shraddha. And according to a person at a given point in time is an expression of one's own Swabhav. So what is this Swabhav actually? When we say this is a Swabhav, he is a very good natured person, very calm, peaceful, loving person. This person's Swabhav is very temperamental. Somebody define who is temperamental. One who has temper and who is mental is temperamental. His Swabhav is temperamental. Very tentative. Somebody's Swabhav is from outside looks very, very nice, loving, smiling, but from inside is very malicious, very dangerous to go near that person. So the Swabhav of that person influences the faith, the belief as of now. And as that person's belief is and the person acts, that will further strengthen the Swabhav. So looking at the action of a person's faith can be understood, and from that a person's nature can be understood. Just by looking at a person one can't understand the nature. It is said that light travels faster than sound. So some people appear to be bright and brilliant till they speak. Just you look at the person, you can't understand. And just you look at the action of the person also, you can't understand. Because what is the motive behind that action, with what Shraddha that person has done, and what is that Swabhav, then you can understand. Hence he says here that you ask the question that the person is doing certain spiritual practices, whether it is meditation or some puja or some japa or some dan or some yatra, one is doing. But the person is not following the scriptures, but is doing with Shraddha. Then what will be the result of that? Bhagavan says Shraddha is of the three types, Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic. And this Shraddha is born out of the Swabhav of that person. So the connection of Swabhav and Shraddha has to be understood very clearly. That each one's Shraddha is an expression of one's own Swabhav, and each one's Swabhav will further get strengthened by that particular Shraddha. So they complement each other. And so he says here, Satviki, Rajasi, Tamasi, Chaiva. These are three types of faith that a person may have, and the answer to your question depends on what type of faith that person is having and with what nature that person is behaving. There may be somebody who is very good natured, but may not have any Shraddha in the Shastra, may not do any spiritual practices, nothing. There may be some person who is very Sattvic in the Shraddha, is doing spiritual practices also. But in the same person's life, you will find that there is some discrepancy in the Swabhav. Person is behaving rude, behaving angry, behaving greedy. Such examples you will find. Ravan, with great Shraddha, he did the puja of Lord Shiva. So he had the Sattvic Shraddha there. But what is his Swabhav? Somewhere in the Swabhav there is selfishness, greed, jealousy, all that. So Shraddha is one thing. Just because one has Sattvic Shraddha doesn't mean that one's Swabhav will be Sattvic. Because the Swabhav is influenced by so many things. Shraddha is one aspect. Swabhav is influenced by the thoughts, the feelings, the actions, the words, the behavior. So many things affect one's own temperament. And this Swabhav is, Shankaracharya defines in his commentary on this verse, he says, what is this Swabhav? This Swabhav has been formed from many past lives. The choices that I have made in so many past lives have made my temperament what it is right now. And that is influencing my faith at this moment. And that faith, how I exercise that faith and how I do that action will further influence my Swabhav. So our problem is that we have Shraddha in some aspects of life. Sattvic Shraddha in some aspects of life. In other aspects of life we have Rajasic Shraddha, Tamasic Shraddha, and hence there is so much of disintegration in a person's Swabhav, in one's life, that it becomes difficult to understand each other. Looking at the person doing some spiritual practice, one feels, what a Sattvic person he must be. And looks so good, when he does puja and does japa, and for so many hours that person is immersed in that. And one assumes that such a person will never have any flaws. But that doesn't happen. Because as far as that spiritual practice is concerned, my Shraddha is Sattvic. But I have Rajasic Shraddha also. I have killer instinct, I have selfishness, I have greed. I have Tamasic Shraddha also. Deriving some strange pleasure out of gossiping and backbiting. So how the Shraddha influences our Swabhav is very important. And how the Swabhav influences our Shraddha is also important. And in life, because there is so much of disintegration in the Shraddha that we have, our Swabhav also is become that way. So in this chapter, Bhagavan is going to describe so many things by which what is the attempt is to make our entire Shraddha Sattvic so that our whole swabhav will become sattvic. My thoughts will become sattvic, actions will become sattvic, feelings will become sattvic, my choices will become sattvic. So the entire thing will become sattvic. Such a person will not have any conflict in their life. That person, whether that person follows the injunctions or not, doesn't matter. Because that person has now fulfilled the purpose of the Shastra, which is to integrate the personality and make it completely sattvic without any contradictions anywhere. Eliminating all selfishness, eliminating all laziness, lethargy, has made the mind calm, peaceful, integrated in all aspects of life. Only such a person need not follow the scripture. Till then, one has to follow the procedures. Why? Because till I don't know that, till I don't fulfill that purpose, it will not be possible for me to live an integrated life. Like a person who has mastered the multiplication tables, no more needs to refer to those. Person who has gone beyond a certain stage doesn't need to refer to those earlier stages. So till we don't transcend the relevance and the need of the Shastra, one has to follow the procedures. Like Gurudev always used to give the example of a pole vault. So the person who is a sportsman takes the pole, runs, places the pole in the pit and goes up. Till the person doesn't go up, the person can't drop the pole. One can't say that anyway I am going to drop it above. Why pick it up? Then one won't reach above. So using the Shastra, studying the Shastra, following the disciplines given there, one integrates the mind. So if the purpose is understood that this is why I need to study the Shastra, because here is a time-tested wisdom of how to make my life completely integrated, so that whatever I do, there is no conflict and there is no disintegration in my personality. My thoughts will be sattvic, feelings will be sattvic, vision will be sattvic, what I want to achieve will be sattvic, and ultimately what I get also will be sattvic. If that happens, that is called yoga. Yuj means to unite. Yoga is not just doing some asana. It is to unite all the disintegrated parts of the personality, bring them together and make them sattvic. Not just bring them together. That bringing them together happens even in a Rajasic and Tamasic person. Person believes that sleep is important, feels that sleep is wanted right now and happily goes to sleep. Describe various aspects like yajna, dana, tapa, ahar, all these in Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic, so that we will understand that what is our swabhava, where is our shraddha, and then we can transform. So the answer Bhagavan gives is a very thought-provoking answer. He doesn't give a conclusion. He says you examine whether your shraddha is Rajasic, Tamasic or Sattvic, and how is your swabhava. Is your swabhava also Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic, and is there integration? According to that, you act. If you have integrated your personality, you have gone beyond the scripture, then what you do will be the scripture. But if you have not integrated the personality, then follow the instructions, do what has to be done according to the way it has to be done. Especially because we want certain results in the world outside. So if I want a certain Olympic medal, I have to follow the instructions given there, because it's a specific thing that I want. If I want to win in a beauty contest, if I want to get into the IIM, I need to follow the procedures. I have to join the CAT classes and I have to go through all that. And then finally write the exam, clear the group discussion. I have to follow all those things because I want a specific result. Human mind is such that it has a tendency to compromise very easily in anything that it does. Imagine in something which is my selfish need, in doing that itself I compromise. In serving, then will I be able to serve wholeheartedly? In spiritual evolution, living selflessly, will I be able to do it wholeheartedly? In Kathopanishad, that is what is depicted. that how a person who is wanting to go to heaven, Vajashrava, he is doing a ritual called Vishwajit sacrifice, in which he is supposed to give away everything, and the punya of that dan will take that person to heaven. And what is he giving up? He is giving up only old, dilapidated cows who are so weak that they don't have energy to die also. All the milk from them has been milked out. They do not even have the teeth to chew the grass. They can't even stand firmly. Somehow they are managing to survive. Such old cows he is giving away, keeping everything else for himself. Now, for a selfish end he is doing this work, and even in that his mind compromises. So his son thinks that he is not doing it as per the procedure. So unfortunately he will not get what he wants to get. Now imagine, in selfish work itself we compromise. I want to lose weight. And the doctor says, not the doctor, who is that? No. Gym trainer. The gym trainer says that you have to walk for 30 minutes on the treadmill at the speed of 6, then muscular level fat will burn. Don't start doing it just because I said. You follow your temperament or whatever your trainer says, but one general instruction is like that. If I really want to burn the fat at the muscular level, I have to follow that. I can't say that it's okay, I will do it only for 15 minutes. Human mind has a tendency to compromise in anything, any resolve that it takes, somewhere or the other it will compromise. So Bhagavan says here that tendency one has to give up. So he says, you analyze what is your tendency, what is your swabhav, and it is possible to transform the swabhav. Though it appears very difficult, that how can you change the nature of a person? It appears that to change the nature of a person is very, very difficult. Yes, it is difficult because so many impressions of so many lives one is carrying forward. But I can do that. In my present moment, by my choices, slowly, I change my belief, change my shraddha, change my swabhav. That's where the knowledge plays a very important part. That once I become aware, these are the tendencies of my mind, then I can take steps to transform from tamasic to rajasic, from rajasic to sattvic, and slowly integrate my whole personality. That is what this Gita way of life is. That how do you come to that way of life where you are living an integrated life, not a disintegrated life. So having said this, that swabhav and shraddha, they influence each other. And it is very difficult to find out what causes what. They don't have a cause and effect relationship. Which came first, one doesn't know. Both influence each other. I read a joke which said that Sardarji found the answer to one of the biggest mysteries of the universe. What is the mystery? What came first? What comes first, chicken or egg? Sardarji said, "Arey, why are you breaking your head on it? It is so simple. Whatever you order comes first. Chicken or egg." So what came first? Shraddha came first, Swabhav came first. What influences what? Both influence each other. But what I can do is, with my present knowledge, I can act in such a way that it can transform my Shraddha, it can transform my Swabhav, both. So now Bhagavan goes on to say ahead in the third verse.
Tattvanurupa sarvasya Shraddha bhavati bharata Shraddha mayoyam purushah Yo yat shraddha श्रद्धः स एव सः सत्त्वानुरूपा सर्वस्य श्रद्धा भवति भारत श्रद्धामयोऽयं पुरुषः यो यच्छ्रद्धः स एव सः.
So says Sattvanurupa Sarvasya Shraddha Bhavati. Everyone's Shraddha is according to their Swabhav. Here Sattva means Swabhav. Sattva here doesn't mean Sattva Guna. Sattva here means the Sabhabhav or the mental temperament. So everyone's Shraddha will be according to one's own Swabhav. Shraddha Mayoyam Purushaha. A person is filled with faith. Then he says, Yo yat shraddha sa eva saha. As the person's faith is, so is the person. The person is as his faith is. So he says here, Shraddha mayoyam purusha. Every person is filled with faith. So the moment we say faith, we restrict it only to religion. So one says, no Swamiji, I don't have any faith. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in scripture, I don't believe in religion, I am an atheist. But even an atheist has faith. Faith in what? Faith is in his own conclusion that there is no God. He has faith in that. A person has political faith, religious faith, materialistic faith. Different types of faith are there. Faith in people, faith in relationships. I have to have the faith that the mic will work. Faith in equipment. So when we define faith as belief reinforced with conviction, that is one definition which is applicable here. So each one has their faith. And according to the faith, the person lives. A scientist has faith. Faith in the principles of science. Faith in the various scientists, what they have said. Einstein said this, Newton said this. One has faith. So one believes in that, that is one's conviction, and according to that one acts. One has faith in one's own senses. Don't we believe what we see? Though it is proved by science so many times that what we see need not be real. The sky we see as blue doesn't mean that it is blue. Earth we don't see rotating, but doesn't mean that earth is not rotating. But yet one has faith in the senses that what I see is real. So one has faith in the senses, one has faith in one's own ideologies, one has faith even in equipments, one has faith in people. So many people have to have that faith. Each one has faith. So he says here, Shraddha mayoyam purushaha. A person is full of faith. Only question we ask is, in what is one's faith? Dependent on that is sattvic, rajasic, tamasic faith. So Shraddha mayoyam purusha. Each one has faith. There is nobody who does not have any faith. It's a belief, it's a strong conviction that one has. And that faith is what guides the person's choices. And so he says, Yo yat shraddha sa eva saha. A person is what his faith is. Generally we have heard about this, that as a man thinks, so he is. So as you think, so you become. But the question here is, how do you think? The thinking is guided by the faith. So if I say that I am an atheist, I don't believe in God, I have rejected all the concepts of God, that prompts my entire thinking. You may say that how did he reject it? Because of his thinking. But the thinking is a strong conviction, right? He has thought about it, and that belief has turned into his strong conviction, and now that is guiding his thinking all the time. So a man is what he thinks is one aspect, but how he thinks is because of his own faith, which he has acquired through his own logical analysis, through experience, through listening to wise people, and one has come to that faith. If you have seen the movie Life of Pi, it is about that. It is not about the tiger and the man. Many people think the Life of Pi, the story is how this man survived in the boat for more than 300 days with a tiger alone. And then symbolism, that tiger is the alter ego, tiger is the guru, tiger is this, tiger is that. Whole story is the story of God. He says that 4 or 5 times in the movie. But generally we miss the point. The whole story is the story of God, and how the youth has come to think that what all concepts of God religion has spoken about, one by one, a rational intellect has thought about it and dismissed all of them, one by one, gone. What is that real nature of God? That one still doesn't know. But whatever is being told to me, I have negated all of them. Because that doesn't satisfy my rational thinking. That's the way precisely the youth thinks about God and about where this creation came from. So at the end of the movie you will find that there is no answer which is given to why the ship has sunk. Even though 2 stories are said, none of the stories will give any satisfactory answer of what caused the explosion or what caused the ship to sink, not explosion. Same thing. So many scriptures give theories of creation. None of them actually can satisfactorily explain how the creation came about, including science cannot explain that even today. That's why he takes a dig on that. He said maybe there has been an explosion in the ship, meaning Big Bang theory. So the person has thought logically and come to that conclusion there, that there is no God. Has faith in that. So each one has their faith. There is nobody who doesn't have faith. And as the faith is, according to that the person will live. That's why it is very important to know what is my faith. That's why he describes sattvic, rajasic, tamasic type of faith. So that once I know what is the type of faith I have, I can live accordingly. I can move out from the lower types of faith, come to the higher and transcend that also. So everyone has the faith. A scientist has a faith, a communist has a faith. Communist will say that there is no God, no scripture, we don't believe in all that. But don't they believe in Karl Marx? Don't they believe in his work? And they will swear by it. So then, one has faith in that. And what is your Gotra now? My Gotra is Karl Marx Gotra. Because I believe firmly in that. That is my origin. That's where I am. So each one has faith. People have faith in equipments. More than even that power which created that equipment. There is some power which has made me, which has made the world. I don't have faith in that. But in the world there are things which are working, things which are there. I have faith in those. That's why Einstein said a very nice thing. He said, it is incomprehensible to me how everything in this universe is so comprehensible. That there is some power which has made all these and it is working so systematically, and just because this is working so systematically doesn't mean that there is a non-existence of a higher reality. The very fact that this is working so systematically means that there has to be some higher reality. And he was in the quest for that. For 2 years he practiced the Yoga Shastra, Patanjali's Yoga Shastra. He practiced that. Experienced different states of the mind. Made himself quiet and came out with so many beautiful discoveries. And you read a lot of quotations of Einstein, A lot of spiritual insights he had, because he was in the same quest to find the source of this creation. And so each one is what their faith is. One has to examine, what is my faith? Where is my faith in? So now Arjun's question was specifically about yajante, those who worship. They worship with faith, but they don't know the Shastra, or they know but they are not practicing it. What will happen to them? So specific to worship, now he gives the answer. 4th verse.
यजन्ते सात्विका देवान्
Yajante satvika devan
यक्षरक्षांसि राजसाः
Yaksharakshamsi rajasaha
प्रेतान् भूतगणांश्चान्ये
Pretan bhutagananschaanye
यजन्ते तामसा जनाः
Yajante tamasa janaha
यजन्ते सात्विका देवान् यक्षरक्षांसि राजसाः प्रेतान् भूतगणांश्चान्ये यजन्ते तामसा जनाः.
So Bhagavan says, your question was, they are worshipping. Now, what are they worshipping? And with what Shraddha are they worshipping? So he defined Shraddha as Satvik, Rajasik, Tamasic Shraddha. Now he describes what do such people worship. It also depends on that. So he explains here, Yajante Satvika Devan. Those who are Satvik minded people, they worship the Devatas. Yaksha Rakshamsi Rajasaha. The Rajasic people worship Yaksha and Rakshas. The Tamasic people, Pretan Bhuta Ganan, they worship Preta and Bhuta. Yajante Tamasa Janaha. Tamasic people worship these. So now, in context of worship, he has given 3 aspects. Satvik people worship the Devatas. Now, Devta here means what? Devta here means, let us say, these are not Indra, Varuna, Vayu, all these Devatas. These are the Sattvic Devatas like Ram, Krishna, Durga, Devi, Shiva. All these, basically the concept of the Lord, the Ishvara, the one supreme creator who manifests in so many different forms. They worship the Lord, not the phenomenal forces to gain some powers. They worship the Lord. That is one meaning. That here are the people, they may not know the Shastra, but they are worshipping the Lord with deep devotion, with deep faith. And there are examples of so many such saints. There was one great devotee of Shiva called Kannappa. He was a tribal boy and he was not allowed to worship the Lord, because in those days that differentiation was there. So he used to live in a forest and there used to be this temple of Shivji there, and here there used to be a Brahman who would every day come and do the Abhishek, offer the flowers, clean the temple, go. And this tribal boy used to see, and his heart was filled with devotion. But he was not able to go nearby. As he grew up, he decided that no, I want to worship the Lord. So one day what he decided, when the Pujari went away, he decided, I am going to worship the Lord. And he took some meat, because that's what he had, and he took the meat, went to the Lord, offered him the meat, did the Abhisheka with some blood, sat there, chanted his name, came back. Next day when the Brahman came there, got so disturbed. This happened many times, and every time this person would do this, Kannappa would do this, Brahman would get very disturbed. So one day he said, let me hide and see. And he found this boy is doing this. That day, Lord Shiva decided. So he saw this boy coming, and how this boy used to come, he would fill water in his mouth, he would come there with the meat, he would pour the water out of his mouth and do the abhishek. When this Brahman saw that, he got so annoyed. He said, I do so many things with so much of scriptural injunction that Bhagwan likes abhishek of this, or 12 dravyas, and then this particular flower, and then Bili Patra, and then Champa, and all that. And here is a fellow, he comes there, filling his mouth with water, and he spits it on Bhagwan. And there is so dirty, and then he has brought this meat. How tamasic that is. So on that day when he did that, suddenly he found, Kannappa found that one eye of the Lord is bleeding. So he tried to take some leaves and all that nearby, and he tried to patch it up, and he tried to clear it out, but it is continuously bleeding. He tried so many things. He tried to pour water, he tried to clean it up, he tried to put some cloth. Nothing happens. From the Shivalinga, blood is oozing out continuously. So it is said that he finally thought that maybe the eye has got spoiled. So if I offer my eye, this may become fine. So it is said that he plucks out his eye with his arrow and he places it there. And that eye stops bleeding. And in a few moments, the second eye started bleeding. So now he knows the solution. But he is wondering now, okay, how will I know the position where to put the eye if I pluck out my second eye? So he takes his foot, puts it on the linga, where the eye is supposed to be, the thumb is pointing there, takes his arrow and plucks out his second eye and fixes it there. And there is Bhagwan who manifests straight away. And the Brahman learns his lesson. That yes, the Shraddha is there, and that Shraddha is Sattvic Shraddha in the deity who is Sattvic and does not want anything else but he is loving the Lord purely for the sake of love. So his bhavna is Sattvic, his intention is Sattvic, the ideal that he is worshipping is Sattvic, and the result that he wants is also Sattvic. He just wants to express his love. He doesn't want anything from Bhagwan. And contrary to that is the Brahman who is doing everything according to the scripture, but when he is praying, his bhavna is not Sattvic. That much devotion is not there. He may be doing it because the people who found the temple there may be paying him, maybe doing it as a livelihood or whatever he is doing. So there are Sattvic people who worship the Lord, worship Ishvara. That is one meaning. Second meaning is, in our daily life context, apart from the spiritual context, Deva means that which is bright, illumining. So here are people who worship high ideals, people who worship selflessness, people who worship great men of such strong character. They have such role models in their life. Hero worship is something that we all know is so common for a human being, to have an idol, to have a hero, and then to imbibe those in one's life. So here is a Sattvic hero. Like Shivaji, when he heard Ramayan from his mother in the childhood itself, he formed the idea that I must have Ram Rajya. When I become a king, I will have Ram Rajya. So he kept that ideal of Ram Rajya as his role model. Somebody grows up with keeping pictures of saints, sages, gods, seekers, great masters like Vivekananda. Depending on what their temperament is. The Sattvic people have that as a temperament. Bright, brilliant role models. So one meaning is Ishvara. They worship Ishvara just for the sake of devotion. Second meaning is they worship the Lord, not the Lords, they worship the role models, who are people who have been very selfless, very spiritual, very high, even in the field which they love. Somebody who loves cricket will keep Sachin Tendulkar or will keep whatever, Ricky Ponting or someone. They will keep that. That is their role model. Or ideals. Like Gandhiji loved the ideal of Satyam and Ahimsa. When he saw the play of Harishchandra, that just went into his heart. So they worship these great ideals or role models or the Supreme Lord. Because their Shraddha is that way, and so they worship that. And whatever we worship, remember, we will become what we worship. That's the law of the mind, that whatever it entertains, it will become that. So if my altar of worship is Sattvic, I will get Sattva into my life, I will learn to become Sattvic. So here are the people who are worshipping, and whenever you see, in many people's houses you will see, there are pictures. Earlier in many houses you would have this picture of the Gita chariot. So the chariot is very symbol of divine plus man of achievement. So in my life, if I have to be successful, I must be a dynamic man of action like Arjun with the spiritual strength in life. So the chariot symbolizes that. So whenever I see that, I remind myself, I need both these. So there are pictures of ideals or of some people. If you see in youngsters' rooms, you will find celebrities, movie stars, rock singers, band, cars, so many different things they will have. Because that's what they revere, that's what they worship, and that's what they want to become. So Yaksha Rakshamsi Rajasaha. So Rajasic people will have Yaksha. Yaksha and Rakshas, they are the attendants of Kuber. So Yaksha are those who have wealth, money, and Rakshas are those who have power, strength. So Rajasic people will worship power and strength. They will worship such people who have the power, strength, fame, success. And because that is what they seek. Their Shraddha and their Swabhav is prompting them to seek that, so that's what they worship. So what is the quality of that Shraddha is very important. And what is that which they are worshipping again is important. So here he says Yaksha Rakshamsi Rajasaha. So they will have the ideals of success, of fame, of becoming popular. So wherever they go, they will try and meet such people and shake hands with them and take pictures with them and put them on the Facebook. Yaksha Rakshamsi Rajasaha. Pretan Bhuta Ganans Chanye. Then there will be people who are worshipping Preta and Bhuta. Preta means the departed soul and Bhuta means the ghost. Swamiji, do ghosts really exist? Mind is very curious. Shastra says they exist. They are different ways, different beings, that is all. What makes us feel they don't exist? If you and I can exist, definitely there are higher beings who can exist. But we have not seen them. You have not seen infrared rays also. Put on the glasses, you will see. Have a special type of perception, you can see the different beings. So those who are tamasic, they will invoke Bhuta and Preta, departed souls and spirits and ghosts and goblins. Why? Because they want some power, some siddhi, some future they want to know. So one is they literally worship these. In our world, what does it mean? They will worship underworld, mafia, smugglers, people who are cheating, gundas. They will hire them also to achieve their objective. And typically what happens? Many times it happens that the person who is invoking Bhuta Preta finally gets obsessed with that Bhuta Preta only. Same way, those people who take the services of all these, underworld and gunda and mafia and smuggler and all that, Finally they get obsessed by them only, they get even harmed and they get even destroyed. You find that happening every time in life, so many places. So some politician will hire some gundas and do some booth capturing and rig the election. And after some time, the gundas will think, why do I have to do the job of booth capturing? I myself will contest the election. Defeat this fellow. And that happens. One place, there was a joke, a sad joke actually. It said that during this and this period of time, the crime rate has decreased tremendously. Why? Because the parliament was in the session. So there are people who worship the lower powers. Now what is important here is, when he said that yajante shraddhayan, what they worship, it depends. Are they worshipping sattvic ideals? Are they worshipping rajasic ones, or are they worshipping tamasic? What is your altar? Is your altar sattvic, rajasic or tamasic? First is that to be determined. If I have something sattvic in my altar, that is what I will imbibe. If I have high ideals, high inspiration, that is what I will imbibe. There was one fat policeman and one very thin robber. Now the thin robber is running, having stolen something, and this fat policeman is chasing him, very healthy fellow who is, and that fellow is almost emaciated, doesn't have any strength, he is running, and he manages to escape. So they asked the policeman that, hello, you have been trained in all this, and how did you let that man run away? You are so healthy, he is so thin. He said, see, I run for my pay and he runs for his life. So he has higher inspiration in life. You see? So sattvic people will have sattvic altar, who have higher inspiration, higher ideals, they imbibe those, higher role models. Rajasic people will worship people who ideals with power, position, name, fame, greed, all these. Tamasic ones will use any adharmic means, do anything, somehow get what they want. So whatever is my altar, as my altar is, so will I become. Whatever I revere, that I will imbibe. Now there is one more aspect here. One is that the altar, what I worship, must be sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. Other is my attitude. I may be worshipping that altar with a different intention. I may have Shivji as my altar, very sattvic ideal. But the purpose for which I am worshipping is, if I am worshipping Lord Shiva to gain peace of mind, to gain equanimity, to gain balance, to gain devotion, then my intention is sattvic. But if I am worshipping Shivji for money, Ravan worshipped Lord Shivji, and when he worshipped Lord Shivji and he asked the boon, Shivji made a huge Lanka, actually the whole Lanka and that whole thing Shivji made. And for his house, Ravan called Shivji to do Graha Pravesh. And Bhagwan, when he made that whole thing, and Bhagwan, actually not Ravan called, sorry, Shivji called Ravan to do the Graha Pravesh, because Ravan was a Brahman. So he called Ravan that you are my devotee, come and do this puja. So he did the Graha Pravesh for Bhagwan. And what did he ask Bhagwan? He asked that very palace in Dakshina. But give me that. So there are people who worship the Lord, but they will worship the Lord for the sake of power, position, name, fame. So though the ideal is sattvic, the intention is rajasic. Then there are people who will worship Bhagwan for tamasic ideal. So Bhasmasur also did tapas. He worshipped the Lord. He got the darshan of the Lord. And then what did he ask? Whatever I touch must become ash. And what did he want to touch? He wanted to touch Lord Shiva only first. That is tamasic. Now these are stories given in our Puranas, but what is the impact and the symbolism of the stories that we don't know many times. So in our life, not only the altar is important of worship, the attitude with which I worship also is important. Both these determine what I will gain. So it is not a simple answer that Krishna could have given, oh, they are very good, even if they are worshipping with Shraddha, it is very good, let them continue. No, depends on what they are worshipping, how they are worshipping, for what purpose they are worshipping. All the three are very important. And you will find that happening in the world in every aspect, not just in spirituality. Why do they ask you, you want to go to USA, and you go to that visa office? They will ask you, why do you want to go? How are you going to go there? What do you want to do there? They will ask. They can't say that, you want to go to USA, you have filled up the form, very good, go. They can't do that. They will ask you all 20 questions. And after all correct answers you have given where nothing seems to be amiss, they will say, rejected, gone. At least that doesn't happen with the Shastra. But still we have more Shraddha in that system than this one. So Bhagavan has answered very clearly. He said, depends on your Shraddha, because you said they worship with Shraddha. So now depends on what type of Shraddha you have, in what altar you have the Shraddha, and with what bhavna you do that. Now moving on to the next part of the chapter, we saw the case of three types of people. First type of person is one who has understood the Shastra and living according to that becomes peaceful, successful. Second type of person who doesn't understand the Shastra or doesn't follow, lives a life of whims and fancies, destroys himself. Third type of a person has Shraddha, does not follow the Shastra. What happens to that person? According to the altar, according to their Shraddha, according to what they want, they will get the appropriate result. Now comes the fourth type of a person who is absolutely lower than tamasic person also. Does not know the Shastra, does not follow the Shastra, does not have Shraddha, and not only that, is doing things which are violent, which are harmful, which are destructive. What will happen to such people? Who don't know the Shastra, who are doing things which are very, very harmful. The other person who did not know the Shastra, living according to whim and fancy, is at least not doing things which are harmful. He is living according to one's own thinking, whatever is his thinking or her thinking, going according to that. But he is not very violent, not doing things which are harmful. Here are people who are doing certain things which are terrible, which appear to be very austere, spiritual, but the intention is to hurt, to harm. What happens to such people? And this is the fourth category of the people, and Bhagavan will explain that. That part we will take up tomorrow. And then he will go on to explain that how we need to transform our swabhav into sattvic, so that our entire personality becomes sattvic, and such a person has fulfilled the purpose of the Shastra. So rest of the chapter, that is going to tell us about three types of food, three types of charity, three types of spiritual practices. We will continue that from tomorrow.
For those of